Meilin Fisher is still one of the best supports in solo leveling Arise, thanks to her being able to buff so many stats. But to make her one of the best, you have to make sure that you do use the 8 set effect of Burning Blessing, so you can get all of the damage bonuses for your entire team, as well as also all of the healing that you can actually apply. But fortunately, Meilin Fisher is a very versatile support, and she can be ran with other sets, such as the Angel in White set, alongside the Sylph's Blessing set, with both of those being on the 4 set effect bonus, because Angel in White can not only just increase your HP, which can increase your Meilin Fisher's damage and also healing, the 4 set effect bonus actually does allow you to increase your healing that you give by another 8% as well. But the best part of this artifact set is literally just because you can increase the damage of the team member with the highest total power by 8%, which does mean you're going to have to make sure that your main DPS does have the highest total power on your team. And then of course, Sylph's Blessing is just so good because you can increase your whole entire team's elemental weakness damage by up to 15% whenever you use your QT, support, or ultimate skill. But then also all of these other sets can be very, very useful for Meilin Fisher as well. And then with Meilin Fisher being a HP scaling support for all of her main stats on her helmet, you're going to want to go for either additional HP or HP percent. The body armor will be either additional defense or defense percent, with both of them being guaranteed. The same also applies to your gloves, because again, additional attack or attack percent doesn't really matter which one you go for, because she doesn't benefit from those main stats at all. And then for her boots, you have the opportunity to go for 2 different main stats, with one of them being either healing given increase, or you could go for your HP percent. For the accessories and the necklace, of course, will be either additional HP or HP percent. The bracelet doesn't really matter too much, but of course water damage percent is going to be the most beneficial main stat. The ring is the same as the helmet as well, because additional HP or HP percent. And then of course, as always, the earrings will always give you the guaranteed main stat of your additional mana points. And then when it does actually come to all of your Meilin Fisher substats, pretty much the only thing you'll ever need are going to be your HP and also HP percent substats. But what you do need to make sure when you are getting as much HP as possible on your Meilin Fisher is to have at least 32,000 HP on her, because her exclusive weapon passive is very, very important in increasing your main DPS's damage, because when the user uses Side Whip, which is her core attack, I believe, it increases the damage of the team member with the highest attack by 1% for every 2,000 of Meilin Fisher's max HP for 12 seconds, which can go up to a 16% damage increase. Which then brings me on to all of Meilin Fisher's best cores, and for the mind piece, the only one that she can benefit from is going to be the Nameless Demon's Deception, because it does increase your critical hit damage of your basic skills. But overall, it doesn't really matter too much which one you do go for, so I would just prioritize whichever one has the best substats. And then for her body piece, overall, you can go for, again, either the Nameless Demon's Horn, or you could go for the Ancient Wraith's Right Hand. Again, probably just go for whichever one has the better substats for you. And then finally, for Meilin Fisher's spirit piece, I do think the Ancient Wraith's mana power is going to be her best option to go for, because when you do use your basic attacks 3 times, you can instantly charge your power gauge by 3%, and with Meilin Fisher's ultimate skill being such an important part of her kit and in applying so many powerful buffs to your entire team, it's going to be really important that you can charge it as fast as possible. And then for all of her core substats, pretty much anything that's just going to keep her alive, so pretty much damage reduction is going to be a really, really good substat for all of your cores. Meilin Fisher has some really good advancements, so here are the ones that you're going to want to get. And by far her most important advancement for you to get is going to be her A1, and the reason for this is because, well, this first of all does lots of different things, because when you use Up, which is her second basic skill, you can basically apply the Cat Butler buff to the team member with the highest attack stat, so your main DPS pretty much. And what this buff does is basically it allows Meilin Fisher to take 64% of the user's damage taken directly, and also gives them super armor for 8 seconds. And that is cool and all, but what is even better with this A1 buff is pretty much the fact that you can actually buff your So Cute buff to increase your core attack damage by 32%. And then for all of her other advancements, of course, these are also fantastic, but you don't necessarily need them. But what is so good about her A2 is the fact that you can increase all of your team members' attack and defense by 8%, and then you can give your water element teammates another 8% as well. And what this does is essentially just allows Meilin Fisher to be run on other teams outside of the mono water team. Her A3 gives her a lot more consistency within her kits, because it does allow her to charge her ultimate much faster. And then her final 2 advancements, her A4 is just a small HP increase, so nothing crazy. But then her A5 is where you are going to get the biggest buff in her entire kit, because it literally just doubles the buffs that she gets from all of her ultimate buffs. But then for all of Meilin Fisher's best skills for you to level up, it really doesn't matter. And the reason for this is pretty much when you level up skills for her, like her second basic skill Up, the only thing you're really doing is increasing her damage and also her mana point consumption. Which obviously, because Meilin Fisher isn't a DPS, it doesn't mean that you're going to really be benefiting from this a lot, but it doesn't mean that you shouldn't, because when you do level up her skills, not only are you going to be increasing her damage, but more importantly, you are going to be increasing her total power, which for me does make Meilin Fisher one of the only hunters in the entire game where you should level up all of her skills, just so you can increase her total power and not necessarily her damage. Which then finally, of course, does then actually bring me on to all of Meilin Fisher's best teams, synergies, and actually how you should use her. And with Meilin Fisher being able to buff so many different stats in the entire game, it does mean that she can actually be ran on multiple teams. But then of course, with a lot of her kit still being around actually using and buffing a lot of your water team members, it does mean characters like Alicia Blanche, as well as hunters like Siojiru or Ana Ruiz as your breakers are going to be really good for your Meilin Fisher, because pretty much all of Alicia's damage does come from her enhanced core attacks. So with Meilin Fisher buffing core attacks a ton, it overall does make Alicia the best main DPS for you to run with Meilin Fisher. And then for a hunter like Ana Ruiz, she's pretty much just here to debuff your opponents, because she can apply something called enhanced corrosive poison, which can decrease your enemy's defense by up to 10% for 30 seconds. And then Siojiru is obviously here just because she is a very good breaker as well, simply just because of the amount of skill resetting that she can do thanks to all of her things through her passive. And also with stuff like her weapon, Unparalleled Bravery, buffing her crit damage by an absolute ton, it does mean that Siojiru can do a lot of damage, which also means she can benefit heavily from the pumped up buff that Meilin does apply, because it does buff your critical hit rate. And then the other team that I think Meilin Fisher is going to be really good in is when you combine her with the likes of Gogan He, as well as also Thomas Andre. And I don't really need to go over what these two do, but pretty much the reason why Meilin Fisher actually can benefit these two really nicely is going to be because of things like her A2 buff, being able to increase all of your team members' attack and defense by 8%. Obviously the attack isn't very beneficial, but the defense buff is. And also because characters like Gogan He and also Thomas Andre do use a lot of things like core attacks, it does mean things like the So Cute buff, as well as also the pumped up buff, will heavily benefit those characters as well, just because they do benefit from a lot of the buffs that Meilin Fisher does apply. And also even things like the damage reduction that her pumped up buff does give to your allies is going to be really good, especially for the likes of Thomas Andre, because it will make it easier for him to keep up his shield for as long as possible. And then finally, when it does come to actually how you do use your Meilin Fisher, pretty much your main goal with your Meilin Fisher is just going to be to charge your ultimate as fast as you possibly can. So if you do have her at A3, then just make sure you are using your skill Rear Lash, which is her first basic skill, so you can get all of that power gauge charging. And then also when it comes to using her weapon, just make sure that you are trying to get your core attack as much as possible, which only takes 2 of her skills to use, so it is quite easy to get, just so that you can then apply the up to 16% damage increase to whoever on your team has the highest attack stat. But overall, if you did enjoy this video, or you just found it useful in general, then don't forget to like and subscribe and click the link down below to support me as a creator. And as always, I will see you all in the next video. Peace!